let's go back to the last time that America fought a major war. It was the 2003 invasion of Iraq called Operation Iraqi Freedom. Okay, so at that time, President George W. Bush and his people, Vice President Dick Cheney, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, and his deputy Paul Wolfowitz, they want this war. And they go to the Pentagon and say, listen, we want this war, give us a plan. And the Pentagon, the generals, they're very experienced and conservative people. And in general, when you fight a war, there are three things you must focus on, okay? The first idea is mass forces. When you fight a war, you want to overwhelm your enemy. So when we say mass forces, we basically mean infantry and armor. Most wars are fought using tanks and soldiers. And the Iraq army at that time had about 370,000 soldiers, okay? And in general, the general rule of thumb when you invade a country is you want to have a 3-to-1 advantage, okay? And the reason why is that when you invade an army, when you invade a country, you need to hold territory and resupply your soldiers, okay? So you need to advance, but you also need to hold territory, as well as resupply your troops and have reserves, okay? So the general rule of thumb is that if your enemy has 300,000 soldiers, you need about 1 million, okay? So that's the first principle. Second principle is the idea of you want to avoid encirclement. The worst thing that can happen to your soldiers is if they become encircled by the enemy, okay? Because then it becomes impossible to defend yourself, all right? And the third idea is protect supply lines. Most of war is actually just logistics. How do you get oil and fuel and weapons from here to there, okay? Supply lines. So these are the three major principles that you must focus on when you fight a war. So when the Bush government asked the Pentagon for a plan, the Pentagon went to the drawing board and said, to invade Iraq properly, we need about 1 million soldiers. Okay? And Donald Rumsfeld, who was Secretary of Defense, and his deputy Wolfowitz said, no, we're going to do it with less than 1 million soldiers. Give us a plan with that requires less infantry. And the Pentagon said, okay, well, we shouldn't do this, but the most we can do is about 900,000. And Wolfowitz said, nope, go lower. And eventually, Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz said, we want you to fight this war with 100,000 troops, 130,000 troops, okay? The Pentagon said to Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, this is insane. We will be outnumbered 3-to-1 when we fight this war. How are we going to avoid encirclement? How are we going to mass forces? How will we protect supply lines? And Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, who are not, by the way, professional soldiers, they've never really fought a war before, they're like, well, we have this theory, a new theory of war called shock and awe. And the idea of shock and awe is that all militaries are hierarchies, okay? You have command and control. So you have the head, and then you have the body, and then you have the arms and the legs. Well, if we can go and cut off the head, then the entire army falls apart. And we can do that because the nature of war has changed. What the U.S. military specializes in, what gives us the advantage is three things, okay? First is air supremacy. We control the skies because we have the greatest air force in the world, okay? But second, what's most important is technological omniscience. Omniscience means to know everything. We're God. The reason why is, listen, we have satellites that can see everything on the earth. We have technology that allows us to eavesdrop on all electronic communications. When you talk on the phone, we can hear exactly what you're saying. We know everything on the ground. That allows us to have the power of God, okay? That's the second thing. The third thing is we have special forces. So special forces are soldiers who go into enemy territory and they are able to target and direct air power against the enemy. Okay? And we, America, have the best special forces in the world. And so with these three things, we have a new doctrine of war. We can fight war in a new way that's never been fought before, but which will guarantee that war will be quick. We'll do it very quickly, cheap. It won't cost that much money. And third, decisive. We will completely destroy our enemy. Okay? And the Pentagon was like, you guys are insane. This is not going to work. This is a theory, guys. Whereas this idea, mass forces, avoid encirclement, protect supply lines, we've been doing this for like thousands of years. This is just experience. This is just history. This is reality, guys. This is just a fantasy, all right? But Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz insisted, and they said, you must fight this war this way. And they insisted. And it turned out that this plan that the Pentagon, most military planners thought is absurd, insane, unrealistic, worked 100% the way it was supposed to work. Okay? The Second Gulf War in 2003 lasted exactly 3 weeks. Very quick. The US military, with only 130,000 troops, was able to destroy an army of 370,000 in 3 weeks, okay? That's one. Second is that America lost at most 200 soldiers, and most of it was due to friendly fire, okay? It was accidental. This is insane. This has never happened before. Only 200 American soldiers died at most, whereas tens of thousands of Iraqi soldiers died, okay? And the third thing that was most impressive is something called thunder runs. Okay, this is just America flexing, okay, or showing off. So what was happening was that America was so dominant that you had these American soldiers in their armored vehicles drive into Baghdad, the capital city. And they would just drive around, circle it, and no one could stop them. And this is what they call thunder runs, okay? And they did 3 of these. It was purely an act of intimidation, but it's also just showing off, okay? It's like you're in a fight, and you decide, you know what, I'm so much stronger than this guy, I'm going to do a backflip, okay? I'm so bored by this guy, I'm going to do a backflip. Thunder runs, okay? So these 3 things show the incredible superiority of this doctrine of shock and awe. Okay? So, how is America able to achieve all this? Well, I mean, the first thing is the idea of air supremacy. So, one bomb called cluster bomb can wipe out an entire tank division. And the reason why is that a cluster bomb inside has about 40 bombs. And these 40 bombs are equipped with GPS. So what they can do is each of these bombs can go and find a tank. It will latch onto a tank and blow the tank up. So this one cluster bomb, which doesn't really cost that much money, can destroy an entire tank division by itself, okay? The other thing is special forces. So the theory is that special forces, if we make them the central core of our military, that will have a devastating impact. And it was true. So what was happening was that special forces could drive around and look for military installations by themselves, okay? We're talking like a few people. And then they could order in an airstrike, okay? And then the planes would blow everything up. So shock and awe was extremely effective. But the problem is that people don't really ask, what did Saddam Hussein do wrong? Why was it so effective against Saddam Hussein? And there are actually 3 reasons, okay, to think that what happened in 2003 was not a revolution in military doctrine, not a revolution in warfare, but just a unique incident in war that doesn't really tell us that much, okay? In other words, what was happening in Iraq could not be replicated, okay? And there are three reasons why. The first is that Saddam Hussein had no air defense, okay? He had no air defense. He didn't have weapons to counter America's air supremacy. And the reason why is that in 1991, Saddam Hussein fought a war against America called the First Persian Gulf War, okay? Operation Desert Storm. And his army got destroyed by American air power. And at this point, America could have chose to go invade Iraq and overthrow Saddam Hussein. And America didn't. So Saddam Hussein learned 2 lessons from the Persian Gulf War, which is number 1, I can never beat America. There's no point in trying. If America wants to beat the crap out of me, I can't stop it, okay? That's the first thing he learned. Second thing he learned is that America probably does not want to overthrow me. Because if he overthrows me, it would destabilize the country, it would destabilize the region, you would allow terrorists into the country, you would turn my people into terrorists, you would empower Iran. So there's no way that America could overthrow me, would want to overthrow me. So let me just focus my resources on suppressing internal dissent, okay? So he completely forgot about America. So even when it was clear that America was about to invade, he still did not put up any air defenses because he didn't have any air defenses, okay? So that's the first thing that was unique about the 2003 war, okay? Second thing is that Iraq is a desert. That makes it ideal for shock and awe, right? Air power can go anywhere. You have satellites that can see everything. Special forces can just drive around, okay? So a desert makes it an ideal situation for shock and awe. And the third thing is just surprise. No one in human history has tried to fight a war like this, okay? And so no one knew what was going to happen. So an example is that special forces were in western Iraq blowing up missile bases because the concern was that Saddam Hussein would direct all his missiles, his Scuds, against Israel, okay? So much damage was being inflicted in western Iraq that Saddam Hussein believed, he was so confident that the main American military was actually in western Iraq, when in fact they were in eastern Iraq. So he diverted all his forces to western Iraq and left Baghdad completely open to attack from the east. Okay? So no one had fought a war like this before, and no one knew what to expect. Okay? But obviously, you can only do this once, right? Okay? So there are 3 special conditions to make us think that shock and awe in the 2003 Iraq War was just a one-off. It was unique, okay? Unfortunately, the Americans don't know this, okay? Right? The Americans are like, well, all this does is prove our theory to be correct, okay? So after 2003, America focused its military doctrine, its military on shock and awe, okay?